Welcome to the Essentials module of My Dairy Dashboard. Today we'll go through what is the Essentials module and how these cards of different data can help you stay on top of your dairy business. The way the Essentials module is set up, these top row of cards, which we call indicator cards, are your most recent view of that data. So if we click on milk per cow that says 80 pounds, that's actually a 4-day rolling average of your most recent milk per cow. It will open up to a default view of 6 weeks where you can see not only milk per cow, but energy corrected milk or fat corrected milk. You can toggle all of those different labels at the bottom, and then the line that scrolls across the top is weather. THI, which is temperature humidity index, is the current one that is chosen, but you could also look at a max temperature or min temperature. And then lastly, if you scroll to the bottom left-hand corner, the date range change. So if we'd prefer to look at the last 2 weeks rather than that 6-week view, we can zoom in, and we can also touch any individual bar and it will give you that exact number for that specific day. And then if I've made all these changes and I really want to look at just fat corrected milk, when I come back to my dashboard, I want to look at temperature humidity index as the weather indicator over the last 2 weeks, then I can save these changes and then it will be that way when I come back to it. Let's take a look at the other indicator cards we have. We have fat percent as well as lactating dry matter intake. Each one of those, if you click on those, they open up to the broader trend, but at a glance right at the top of your phone give you what that most recent number is. As we scroll down, we can look at the other cards that are included in this Essentials module, fat and protein percent. So if we open that card up, and again we see this 6-week view. I can take weather off. Again, all these are clickable, so if I want to just look at fat and protein percent and see those trend lines, if I'd rather see pounds, you can see those total pounds of fat and protein and have those be your default if that's what you'd like to look at. We also have these gauges, such as somatic cell count, with the red, yellow, and green as indicators of how your numbers match up with industry standards. So current this dairy is at 202,000 on somatic cell. If we click into that card, again we get that longer term view. So they've actually gone up more recently up to 200, but had generally been below 150 if you look over the last several weeks. So having that visual can really help at a glance see if you're trending where you want to or if it's something to pay attention to. On this specific herd, the co-op has several of these indicator cards, the LPC coli PI count, that actually don't show up on their portal. So we're working on being able to hide those cards if that's not data that's available to you with your co-op's website. But in the interim, if the data is actually not there, it'll say no data. We also have close-up dry matter intake, feed efficiency, feed cost per hundredweight, lactating dry matter intake, all on the feed side of things. Let's look at the close-up dry matter intake card. So this shows dry matter intakes, and again, you can click on each individual one and be able to see what those differences are. We also have pen count for that close-up pen overlaid so that you can see what impact that's having. You know, this one, of course, they move cows, looks like once a week into those close-up pens, so that's that up and down that you see. And it certainly looks like total pen count in that pen has gone up, and dry matter intakes have gone down, which is what you would expect. But, you know, this is a really good visual one to keep track of, you know, if there's too many cows in that close-up pen, and actually be able to see those correlations on top of each other. So let's also look at feed efficiency, which is a number that if you're not calculating that in Excel today, it's probably not actually something you're looking at because it's not auto-calculated in another program. It's pulling that total pounds of feed, that dry matter intake, and fat-corrected milk and putting those together. So if we just toggle off on dry matter and fat-corrected milk and just look at those feed efficiency trends, you can see it looks like over those last 6 weeks, feed efficiency may have gone down a little bit. If we click on fat-corrected milk, you know, those trends mirror each other quite well. Certainly fat-corrected milk has an impact on that, but then if we just look at dry matter intake, it looks like those intake numbers have gone up pretty significantly, which is certainly having that impact on feed efficiency. And maybe they've gone up so much they're not real, and in that case too, it's a good number to look at, to have that conversation with the feeder and see if there's something else going on where maybe those numbers aren't actually correct in the system at that point. So let's scroll down to the last pieces. So we also have feed cost per hundredweight, which that's the one financial metric that we have on this Essentials module to be able to look at what that cost is per 100 pounds of milk produced. We have conception rate, which looks at it weekly conception rate. So the most recent conception rate number, we've got weekly numbers. So show the most recent week that you did preg check, and then look at what those conception rates are by lactation group. So we've got lactation 1, 2, and then the total herd. We can click off if we just want to look at lactation 1, and if you want to look at an individual bar, we can pull those up. And then certainly it's not all about conception rate, it's also about the number of new pregnancies. So we've got the green line, where that shows those actual number of new pregnancies that week. And then if you'd prefer to look at weather instead, you can tap on temperature humidity index and have that overlaid conception rate, since that certainly has some correlation and bearing on how easy it is to get cows pregnant. All right, now as I scroll to the bottom, just to round out our top indicator cards, we also have some on the health side of things. We've got number of mastitis cases per week. We've got transition health events and fresh cow survival. I'll pull up the transition health just to take a look at that. So if you are tracking transition on your herd software, those will come through. We've got ketosis, metritis, RPs, and milk fever. If you want to zoom in and just look at ketosis numbers, and then overlaid on that, we have the number of calvings per week, so that you can keep an eye as well on how many cows are actually freshening versus all of the different transition events that you're calculating. So this rounds out the Essentials module. We actually have an Essentials module that includes herd management, feed management, co-op data, and weather data. And then we also have an Essentials module without feed for those that don't have feed software. And lastly, if you don't have feed software, we do have an option where we have an Excel upload where you can plot your feed numbers in Excel, and then we automatically pull that into your dairy dashboard every evening to keep that up as well.